Hello, Melissa.
Hello.
Welcome, future lawyers, to this BarMax webinar. You're here with BarMax, the best way to pass the bar exam. And we are excited to have you here today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for my presentation, but we're here today to talk about what's on the bar exam. So looks like a lot of people are interested, have bar exams in their future.
Yes, it looks like we have such a good crowd today. Yes. I'm hoping we can clear up some of the mysteries and questions that people may have going into what is the bar exam, right?
Excellent, excellent. Yes, that is our goal. So we're pretty good at getting that done. So let's make this happen. I'm going to share my my little webinar. Can somebody just throw in chat whether you can see that screen that says BarMax and this one, Bar Exam Basics, what's on the webinar? Thanks.
I can see it, Celeste.
Oh, I could have asked you. That's right. You see the same thing. Clever. We've only been doing Zoom since I worked here in 2019. So what's our agenda today? Today, we're going to talk about all the bar exams in the United States. We know that many of you are taking a U.S. bar because you're currently law students and you're looking ahead, or you're foreign lawyers who want to take a United States bar exam to become a U.S. lawyer. So we are here for you. You've come to the right place. The multi-state bar exam, the first thing on my list here, is the portion of the exam that is used in 54 jurisdictions. I'll show you that. It's multiple choice and everyone will be taking that. So I'll talk about that first. And then I will talk about the uniform bar exam, which is offered in these jurisdictions here. And this map will come back, don't worry. But notice, this is the exam if you are in these states. If you're in New York, if you're in Texas, if you're in Missouri, if you're in Alaska, this is your bar exam. It's called the UBE, the Uniform Bar Exam. So I'll talk about that one. And we'll go through the different components. And Melissa's actually going to jump in and handle one of those for me. And then she's going to segue to the California bar exam. So California, you notice, is not on this list. It has its own exam. And so she'll talk about that. And then I'm hoping we can circle back to some things that I can only touch on briefly and handle some Q&A and touch on the other states that are gray here. Just spoiler alert, if you are in Wisconsin, Hawaii, or South Dakota, you are basically taking the UBE. You have the UBE exam plus an additional state component. We'll talk about that a little bit, but all of you have to take the multiple choice. So that's where we'll start. And before I let Melissa go for a little bit, Melissa and Katie will be looking at chat, and I'll be looking at chat later on. But and you can communicate with each other through chat. That is a great place if you have specific questions about BarMax, about your own bar prep. So go ahead and get your questions in there. They'll be answered in the chat. If you have questions that should be applicable to the more general crowd about the subject matter we're talking about today, what's on the bar exam, then put those in Q&A and we will hit them in that Q&A segment to cover that, okay? Before we go, okay, I'll let you go, Melissa. I know you know. Yeah, and then and I'll see you back in a little bit. Yeah, yeah. Bye-bye. Before we go, I need to let you know that BarMax, as I said, the best way to prepare for the bar exam. The pricing here is shown for a comprehensive program, meaning everything you need to pass the bar. And this is unlimited access. This is access for as long as you need it until you pass the bar. We also offer tutoring for people who want additional help, either with scheduling, planning, like staying on task in their bar study, or with specific content-based stuff. Our tutors are all, excellent masters of the bar exam material that they teach, or with the essay writing or performance test writing components. If you need help one-on-one breaking down your writing, then that's for you. The base course does include 10 essay reviews, and our essay graders do give detailed comments, so that might be enough for many of you. For others, you might feel more comfortable talking through some of those essays one-on-one with a tutor. We offer that. And we have bundles where if you combine the course and the tutoring, you can save some significant amount of money there. But let's get into it. What's on the bar exam? As I said, the multi-state bar exam, the multiple choice part, is used in 54 jurisdictions. And if you are scratching your head thinking there's only 50 states, well, there is also the District of Columbia. So 49 states, the District of Columbia, and there are also US territories that use the MBE as part of their bar exam. So notice those are listed down here. In total, 54 jurisdictions use this. So what is this exam? It is 200 multiple choice questions. And I am going to tell you, it's pretty brutal. You're going to do 100 questions in the morning, 100 questions in the afternoon. Your eyes will be bleeding. And, I don't know exactly why we haze people in this way to help them become lawyers, but we're here to help you pass that and the other portions of your bar exam. So that's just a hurdle that all of us needed to overcome to become lawyers, and you can too. There are 7 subject areas on this exam. Some of them are those common law subject areas you may have studied in your first year of law school: contracts, torts, criminal law, and maybe property might have been in that curriculum. Those are common law, but with statutory changes, adjustments, development over the years. You'll learn in BarMax what you need to actually pass the bar exam. It is not a comprehensive course of everything. It's a course on what is tested on the bar exam. So that's nice. You won't learn too much extra fluff. You'll learn what you need to pass the bar exam. There are 2 procedural components, which are civil procedure and evidence. Now, civil procedure is the field of law that covers when you have a civil case, not a criminal case, but a civil case, someone suing somebody in federal court. How do they do that? What do they file? What cases belong in federal court to begin with? Where do they file it? From that moment of filing the case and serving your defendant all the way up through appeal, there are certain procedures that need to be followed, and those are covered in the civil procedure course. Evidence law is similar, except for now we're honing in on the trial part. If we do have a trial, and most cases don't go to trial, we talk about all the different ways that cases get dealt with other than trial in the civil procedure course. But if we do go to trial, what evidence can the jury hear? What evidence can be considered in that case? Unlike some countries, we don't rake in all the relevant evidence and allow the jury to consider it. We have the judge perform something of a gatekeeper role and omit pieces of evidence that might otherwise be relevant, either for policy reasons or reasons of their reliability that the federal rules of evidence have determined are needed in order to help the jury decide based on the facts and the law, the facts that can be proven. Anyway, so those are the 7 subject areas on this exam. And if you download the free version of the BarMax app or if you are a BarMax student and log into our website, you'll see that those are the first 7 subjects covered in our course menu. So we tackle these 7 subjects first because they form such a significant part of the exam. What do those questions look like? Well, here's one. You'll notice that it's a few paragraphs. Sometimes they're longer and sometimes they're shorter. If they're shorter, it tends to be that every little word matters, so you still have to read them carefully. And they don't tell you what it's about. They don't have like the contracts questions and then the torts questions. No. They're all mixed together with no labeling. But often you can read the call of the question. And so we do recommend you start here by reading the call of the question and determining, okay, what is this about? Here, I've highlighted it. Should the federal court give preclusive effect to the state court judgment? This is about preclusion. If you haven't heard of it, don't panic, you will. It's the last thing to come up in a civil procedure course, both in law school and in the BarMax course, because it says, hey, if we have a judgment in one case, can that person bring the lawsuit again, either somewhere else or try again? No, they can't. There are some limits on that. So this is a question about claim preclusion. There is claim preclusion, there's issue preclusion. You would learn all that in civil procedure. You'd read the call of the question, and then you would read the facts carefully. Someone asked in advance of this webinar, should we skip the facts, for a time? No, don't skip the facts. If it was successful for somebody, good for them. It's not successful overall as a strategy because there can be one tiny fact that turns the result of questions. Some of them are quite complex, quite tricky. Then you read the answer choices. Within BarMax, now obviously this is just my presentation, but within BarMax you can click these little buttons to gray out the ones that you are eliminating through process of elimination. A here has a wrong statement of law, so you can eliminate that one, and you would get to the correct answer and be able to look at that. I have a lot more videos, and I'll show you later where to get there on study strategies. We actually recommend an open book method for your first time through the material. That's a little unusual. It's contrary to what other programs teach you, but we think it's the best way to learn the material deeply. So you actually wouldn't click your answer choice. You'd look up the rule if you had to, but that's how we teach it. Today is just what's on the exam, 200 questions that look basically like this. Before I move on, these 200 questions are not all graded. In fact, only 175 are graded, and the other 25 are tester questions that they are using to calibrate. First of all, is this question well written? If a bunch of people who are otherwise scoring high are getting this question wrong, then they need to go back to the drawing board. And second, how difficult is this question? Because as they scale the results on the exams, they consider the difficulty of each question on that exam. So what it takes to score well on the exam might vary by a question or two from administration to administration because the difficulty of questions can vary slightly. Pretty much if you're scoring at par on the writing side, you probably want to get at least 110 questions correct to squeak out a pass. We'd like most of you to be passing at a higher score than that. But it's not a high percentage because the questions are very tricky. So that's the multi-state bar exam. And you can see some more sample civil procedure questions in the civil procedure portion of the free version of our app. So the second thing I'm talking about before I pitch this over to Melissa is the Uniform Bar Exam. And I flashed this earlier. This is a list of Uniform Bar Exam jurisdictions. Okay? And I said earlier, and I'll repeat now, that if you're in Hawaii, Wisconsin, or South Dakota, then you are pretty much would study for the UBE as well, and then prepare a little bit more for an additional state component. In Hawaii, that's just a short multiple choice. Hawaii professional responsibility, what is it? The code of ethics that applies to lawyers in Hawaii. And in South Dakota, it's a little bit of federal Indian law. If you're taking the bar in those states, you've probably already heard that from somebody, but there you go. For the rest of the states here, it's exactly the same wherever you go. If you take the bar exam in Kansas, you do not need to know the Kansas distinctions. If you take the bar exam in New York, you do not need to know the New York distinctions. You answer according to generally applicable principles of law in every single state that is read on this map. Now, what does vary state to state is the score required to pass. If you look at this map closely, you'll see that the passing score varies from 260 to 280. That is Alaska. So if you want to go practice law in Alaska, you need to make sure you score high on that exam if Alaska is calling. What's interesting about the UBE states is they have all agreed to accept scores from the other states. So if you are in Texas, want to be a Texas lawyer, but would prefer to take the exam in New Mexico, then you can take the exam in New Mexico. Now, the downside is you'll have to apply to be a lawyer in New Mexico, and you'll have to apply to be a lawyer in Texas, and the rest of the application might vary greatly. They require tons of references. There's character and fitness. I've moved a lot with my professional career and schooling, and I had to get my driver's license records for every state I'd ever lived in, which I'm old. That was a lot of places, things like that, right? So it's kind of a pain in the neck to fill out these applications, and they can vary state to state. And they also come with application fees. But let's say you did that. Let's say you took the exam in New Mexico and you scored a 270 or above. Well, then you can take that score, apply to practice law in Texas. Again, the application, the fees, it's still there, but you don't have to take the exam again because that 270 will transfer over. What about vice versa? What if you don't pass in your state, but your score would pass in another state? For example, if you are here in Massachusetts and need that 270 and you score a 268, you are heartbroken. But then you realize, there's parts of Connecticut I like, or forget it. I'm moving to the U.S. Virgin Islands. You can do that. You can take that score from Massachusetts where you did not pass. You did not hit 270, but you take that 268 down to the U.S. Virgin Islands, and there you go. You can be a lawyer there. So there is flexibility and reciprocity between these states that are read on the map. So now that we know what the Uniform Bar Exam is, what the heck is on it? Well, the second day, just like it is for all the other bar exams, the last Wednesday last Wednesday in February and the last Wednesday in July, everyone takes that 200 question MBE. By the way, they don't tell you which 25 are tester questions. Oh no, they know you would blow them off. They're just scattered in there, and good luck. What's Tuesday? Tuesday has two components. In the morning, it's the multi-state essay exam. That's 6 essays of 30 minutes each. Okay, now other states, California and Georgia and Nevada and other states have different essay lengths that they use, but for the MEE, okay, New York, all those states in red on the map, and several other states as well, they use MEE essays, which are 30 minutes each. I'll show you a question in a moment, but it is a bit of a horse race to get all those done. In the afternoon, you'll sit down for another 3 hours. They will hand you 2 tasks to complete. Like as if you're a lawyer, you will be given a file. And anyway, Melissa's going to explain that in more detail, but you will have to do 2 lawyer jobs, and they're called the multi-state performance test. Okay, we call them performance tests here around BarMax because there's a California performance test, a multi-state performance test, but they're basically the same thing. They are nearly identical, and they're each 90 minutes. So you have to do a 90-minute task, except for on the UBE, you have to do 2 90-minute tasks. The exam is somewhat grueling. You might be getting this idea already. Don't worry, don't worry. Many, many people pass. Every year, thousands of people pass. And, you know, if you're with BarMax, we are really here for you every step of the way. So what's tested on the ME? Well, you could get essays about any of the big 7, the ones that are on the MBE, the civil procedure, contracts, constitutional law, crimes, evidence, real property torts. Ooh, when I summarized those, I didn't mention constitutional law or criminal procedure. Those are about the U.S. Constitution. Anyway, if you have questions, put them in Q&A. We'll come back to it. Plus, you may have essays about these essay-only subjects. Now, they call it business associations, but we break it down to agency and partnerships in one lecture and corporations and LLCs in another lecture. Why? Because really those are tested separately and they function under different rules. Agency rules can come up anywhere, really. It's just about when somebody grants authority to somebody else to do something, and then who's liable, and really was their authority, and all of that. It's actually a really important area of law for both the bar exam and real life. And the bar exam and real life don't always align really well, but that one actually, it's a very good one to know, agency. And then the law of partnerships, the law of corporations and LLCs. That's the first chunk of material that could be an essay. Family law, I've always said, you know, who gets the money, who gets the kids, and who's the daddy? Like those are the areas tested. Who the mama is usually pretty clear. Maybe some other issues too, but basically family law, dealing with marital and related issues. Oh yeah, are these people married? Wills, obviously somebody has a will or doesn't have a will, and we have to deal with their assets. Trusts, you know, when they die, and then trusts, very similar. They have put property in trust. What happens to it when they die? And then secured transactions is based on Article 9 of the UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. It's about loans and that have collateral to secure them. So that's that one. Now, conflict of laws is never tested in its own essay, but that course is about if it's not clear in a particular case which state's law should apply. You know, if several states are somehow involved in this case, coming up with which state's law we're going to apply to this case is actually a conflict of laws issue. So that will be tested in conjunction with some other subject on the exam, maybe. Not tested all the time, but when it is, it's in conjunction with another subject. And they can combine any of these 2 subjects in what we call crossover questions. There was one recently that was corporations, but it had a constitutional issue. And sometimes they'll do that. Anyway, we have all of the past essay questions in BarMax, and we have ones that we recommend that you practice from, and then you can also practice from all of the other past essay questions. We find that the most recent exams, the most recent, 5-10 years is useful to you because you'll see what the test examining trends are. You can learn the law from those, and you can practice writing from those. We have videos about that as well. So what do the questions look like? This, honestly, is a short one. I picked it because it's short and it fits on the screen, and because it's torts, which most people are familiar with. Now, you can't tell it's torts at the top of the page. What it said on this was question 1. This was the July 2021 bar exam, question 1. But we know it's torts, again, by looking at the calls of the question. We have, under the applicable standard of care, are the facts sufficient for a jury to find that the son acted negligently? Okay, so we see that negligence is here and here, liability is here, and then damages is here. So boom, we have a torts question. Negligence is the heart of torts, especially on the MBE. Oh my goodness, almost half the multiple choice questions about torts are about some facet of negligence law. So you'll get to know that well while you're studying for the bar exam. And so you will read the call of the question. You'll read the question very carefully, and you will, here's the question itself, and you will write an essay. Some of them are longer than this. This one, the prompt and the call of the question all fit on one piece of paper. And for others, it bleeds onto the second page and even maybe halfway down the second page. So these can be lengthy. And if you notice here, we have 4 calls of the question. How long did I say you have to answer this? 30 minutes. So you have to streamline, you have to give them what they want, which is IRAC, issue, rule, application, conclusion. We have more videos that demonstrate this, like it should look on the exam. And yeah, and I'll show you where to find those in a minute, because we can't do everything today. I can't, throw too much information at you at once, right? But this is what they look like. You do need to write an essay. You're going to want to break it in 4 sections. You're going to want to be very clear about which section is which, bold your headings, whatever, and then give it a clear IRAC, issue, rule, application, conclusion for each section, and you will be good. But you have to do it fast, no fluff, because you got 30 minutes. So the other section of the uniform bar exam is the performance test. And so Melissa's going to talk about the performance test and the California bar exam. But Melissa, before I get out of here, I wanted to show them where they will find some resources. Okay. And I will come back later. Instead of sharing my presentation, I will actually share my browser so I can show you what's at these places. But this is where you will find other videos. Now, not all of the BarMax videos are free and available to non-BarMax students, but a lot of them are. There are 24 videos in the BarMax playlist on the YouTube webpage for TestMax Inc. Okay, TestMax Inc., our parent company. We have a lot of LSAT stuff on there. We have 24 BarMax videos. There are many more videos, which are the office hours available only to BarMax students within the app. But there is something called MEE Basics, and there is even something called Studying for the Bar Exam as a Foreign Lawyer, that talks about challenges in writing those MEEs, for people that come, especially from civil law countries where you're expected to write somewhat differently. And Matthias, one of our former instructors, does a great job explaining that. It starts about 34 minutes into the video, and I asked Katie to like post a link to that. So there it is. So grab that link if that applies to you. If you say, hey, I'm a foreign lawyer, what's the writing supposed to look like? Grab that link, look at that one and the other stuff on that page. If we have time at the end, I'll show you what else is available in these resources. But since all of these states use the multi-state performance test, notice it's some that weren't read before, okay? Melissa will explain. And California uses the California performance test, which is nearly identical. I need to close my mouth and let Melissa explain the next thing on the bar exam. And Melissa's terrific at this. So thank you, Melissa.
Oh, thank you, Celeste. All right. I'm going to, let me share. Oh,
I got to stop sharing and I got to go away.
I was too quick. Too quick. Okay. I'm going to share my screen with everybody. I'm going to start talking about the performance test. Okay. So can everyone see my PowerPoint? Just maybe yes in the chat real quick.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Okay, great. Thank you, Celeste. So the bar exam, what do you need to know? Obviously, that's what we're here to talk about. I am here to talk to you about the performance test first. Now, like Celeste said, the MPT, which is the multi-state performance test, and the California performance test are nearly identical. They did not used to be, but they are now. And so when we talk about the performance test generally in our conversation today, know that it applies, what I'm going to talk about applies to all of you. Now, where is the MPT given? The multi-state performance test. It's given in all UBE states. And the list, I think Celeste showed the map. Here's a list: Delaware, Georgia, Hawaii, Mississippi, South Dakota, Wisconsin, Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, and Palau. And in California, the California performance test is given there. So it's only given in California. So for anyone taking any of these bar exams, this is what you need to know. This is the task that is most like being a lawyer. So some people find it easy. Some people, it's very new. It depends on your experience. Regardless of whether you have any real life experience or you did something in law school or you plan to do internships, courtroom experience in law school, we can show you how to be successful. There are lots of videos that we have in our office hours that Celeste is going to talk about, and she's alluded to a little bit, where we really go in depth into detailed strategies and how to be successful on this part of the exam. So what is the performance test? So it tests an applicant's ability to analyze a realistic legal situation by writing a memorandum, brief, letter, or closing argument. Those are the top four. Now, specifically on the MPT, they have been known, the examiners, to give you different formats. 1 year there was an Articles of Incorporation. 1 year it was right will provision. You don't want to be scared or apprehensive about that. They give you what you need to know. It's all encompassing. So it doesn't matter what they ask you, you have the tools within your packet in order to do that. But these are your top four, and these are what, when you study, you're going to practice the most. What do you get in your packet? On the MPT, you do two hour-and-a-half MPTs. So in each of your booklets, or in the one booklet, you're going to get your task memorandum, your file, and your library. And we're going to look at examples of each of them to see what they look like to give you an idea. But what is your task memorandum? Your task memorandum is the first page after the instructions that tell you what you need to do, what document you're going to write. Is it a memo? Is it a brief? Is it a letter? Is it a closing argument? Is it something else? You also want to look at what's the tone. Is it objective or persuasive? And then find the issue. Again, we go into a lot more in-depth and how to strategies, but that's the idea of what you're going to look at in your task memo. The next part is your file. That contains all your facts, your factual information, documentary evidence that you're going to use in your analysis. So the examples are transcripts, documents, articles. Anything factual is going to be found in your file. The last section in your packet is the library. This is your legal authority. So this contains statutes, regulations, cases that you're going to use in your IRAC analysis of the issue. So let's take a look at an example of a task memo. This is this was the October 2020 California performance test. And again, I picked it because it's short and it fit on my screen. But this is generally what you're going to see. It's going to say memorandum at the top. It's going to be to you as the applicant from someone, usually your supervising attorney, a date, and the case. And it's going to tell you a little story. It's going to say what's happening, why you need to write this document. And most of the time, it's going to also include your issue. So you can see in this particular case that the issues are numbered 1, 2, and 3. Is Ryan able to disaffirm the contract? If so, did Janice's letter disaffirm the contract for Ryan? And 3, is Janice liable for the $8,980 charge? Those are going to be your issues, and they're very plain. You can see them. It's not always the case, but a lot of times this is how you're going to be able to find it. And it also tells you what they want you to do. Right above it, it says, please prepare a memorandum that answers the following questions. So you get a lot of information in this short task memo. Again, this is telling you what you're going to do. The next example is what we're going to look at is the file. And I took, again, this is from that same question, just one part of the file. And this is the letter that Janice writes to the gamer company to disaffirm the contract. This is facts. This is something you're going to use to apply to your rule to see, did this woman disaffirm her contract? And so this shows facts that you may or may not need to use. Remember, with the performance test, it's not testing your substantive knowledge. Unlike the MBE, the multiple choice questions, and the MEE essay questions, this is not substantive. Everything you need to know is in your packet of information. What is being tested is your ability to organize and write effectively. So it's a little bit different, but it allows you to show the applicant, the graders, that you know how to prepare a basic legal document. And it's not a legal document like a pleading, but a memo, a brief. You can write logically and reason with what you're given. And it's not always perfect, but you're going to have to compare facts, pull those facts out that are relevant. That's part of what you're being tested on. So this is an example of what you may see in your file. And the last part is the library. So I took a screenshot of just part of a case. Cases are typically 1 to 2 pages, and you can have one case up to 3 cases, along with statutes, which would I consider your codified authority. Statutes, regulations, rules, those are complementary to these cases as well. And you can just see that in California, we're typically in Columbia, whereas in the MPT, you are in a different jurisdiction, which escapes my mind at the moment. But again, Columbia or anywhere else, it doesn't matter. You're in a fictitious place because they're crafting the law around what they want you to talk about. This is a good example of just a couple paragraphs of a case. It's talking about it tests you and your ability to read the case, maybe brief the case, pull out what's the rule, what are the facts that are comparable to the facts of my case. And again, we can walk you through exactly how to do that effectively. Now, that's the performance test. Again, it's all-encompassing. You don't need outside knowledge. So it is a great part of the exam to practice when your brain is fried from learning and practicing all that substantive knowledge. This is definitely the part of the exam that a lot of students don't pay much attention to, because it's not substantive learning your black letter law, applying it through multiple choice and through essays. However, it is important and you do not want to ignore it. So in your studies, when you take and study for the bar exam, please be sure that you practice this effectively so you can be successful. Do not ignore it. It does, and we'll see when I talk about scoring in the California, how it is worth a substantial part of your writing score. Okay, so now let's talk about the California bar exam on its own. So the California bar exam is 2 days. In day 1, in your morning, you have 3 one-hour essays. And in the afternoon, you have 2 one-hour essays, so a total of 5 one-hour essays, and your 90-minute performance test, like the one we just looked at. Your writing day, which is day 1, is 50% of your total score. And on day 2, which is the MBE that Celeste went over, that's also 50% of your total score. What is covered on day 1? Well, civil procedure, constitutional law, contracts, criminal law and procedure, evidence, real property, and torts. So your big 7 are also can be tested on your California essays. However, it's not just the federal or generally accepted common law principles. It's also California law is possibly tested, both in civil procedure and in evidence. And for real property, I included the UCC Article 9. That has to do with fixtures. So you need to know how fixtures relate to the real property there. On the right column, you have business associations, community property, professional responsibility, remedies, wills, and trusts. And those are California specific. So business associations, that includes partnerships, corporations, limited liability companies, limited partnerships, all the different kind of entities for businesses are covered under business associations. Community property. As someone who did not go to law school in California, if you did not but are planning to take the California exam, it's very learnable. So don't be afraid of community property. It is the counter to the MEE's family law, but it's what we apply in California. So just be aware that you can learn the material and don't be intimidated by it. But it's also something that's tested on essays. Professional responsibility, and we're going to look at an essay in a second. Professional responsibility has been tested on every recent exam, either as part of another question, as in a crossover, or as its own question. It is very important to the examiners that your applicants know about the rules of professional conduct. And in California, you must know both the California rules of professional conduct and the ABA model rules. And the ABA model rules are what's tested on that MPRE. Now, when you're learning them, you want to learn them both. Sometimes they're the same, and sometimes they're different. But when you're answering your question, be sure you talk about both of them. Remedies. Remedies comes up mostly under contracts or torts, because then we're talking about damages. But we have seen questions with remedies in relations to constitutional law as well. So remedies can come up in multiple ways, but they will usually, you'll see it somewhere on the exam. Wills and trusts go together, but wills are how someone, again, is able to distribute their estate upon their death by writing a will. Is the will valid? Did they revoke the will? Those are questions that you'll likely see. Trust, did someone create a trust? Is it a charitable trust? Those are the sort of issues that you may see under that topic. All right, let's take a look at my first example of essay questions. Now, I picked shorter essays because I wanted them to fit on my screen, just like Celeste. But know that the difference between California essays and MBE essays are, one, they're twice as long. You get an hour to answer each of them. Why? Well, one, they're longer, typically. They include many more issues that you need to find and discuss. And three, the questions that they ask are more broad, which requires you to take more time in organizing your answer so it can be successful and accumulate the amount of points needed to pass. So this question is a contracts remedies question. And how do I know it's a contracts question? Well, if I read the first sentence, it says, Percy and Daria entered into a valid written contract. So I know that we have some things going on with contract. Then when you go ahead and you look at the bottom, the call of the question, what remedy or remedies may Percy reasonably seek, and what is the likely outcome? So even though I see a contract as possible issues, the question that is really being asked here is, what are the remedies Percy can seek? So again, you're going to look at it and read these three paragraphs and find all the issues, or again, all the remedies Percy might be able to ask for, and write them in IRAC form. The second essay example I have is the professional responsibility question. This was given in July 2019, so it is a very recent question. And again, it's not long, but there are many ethical issues that appear in these three paragraphs. So part of your practice is issue spotting, and then being able to write IRAC analyses for each of these topics, each of your, in this case, duties. And another reason that you know this is a professional responsibility question is the last line that says, answer according to ABA and California authorities. This means, like I said, you must use both the model rules and the California rules of professional conduct to analyze these facts. All right, scoring, the important. How is the California exam scored? The essays, each essay is worth 100 points. And remember, there's 5. So it's 500 points. They are graded on a scale of 40 to 100. But to achieve a 40, at least a 40 score, you have to identify the subject of the question and attempt to apply the law of the fact. If you don't do that, you receive a 0. Now, our goal, and what we give you the tools to be able to do, I don't want you to get a 40. I want you to get an 80. And that's what you will be able to do by working and progressing and using all the course materials and all the different kinds of ways to study. You can achieve a passing score. Now, the performance test is worth 200 points. What does that mean? It's worth 2 essays. That's why I said, please don't ignore the performance test while you're studying for the bar. It is worth a significant amount within your writing score. you want to do well. So your total raw score is 700 points. And then the California bar scales it to 1,000 points. So it takes your 700, your score, the total is 700. Let's say you got a 550. They would scale that to the 1,000 point scale. And that would be your 50% of your score on your first day. The MBE, they take your NCBE scaled score and then convert it to the 1,000 point scale, and that scale adjusts for the average difficulty across the administered exam. So they just scale it to 1,000 points. So each day it's worth potentially 1,000 points after they scale both of their scores. And what do you need to pass? You need a 1390 or above. All right. Celeste, do you want me to go ahead and talk about Michigan, or do you want to hold off and do Q&A next?
Let's do a little bit of Q&A. Okay. I have all the other states queued up as well, but there is some really good Q&A here. Awesome. And hoping I can throw stuff at you. Yes, I want to start with Upile's question here that says, with MBE questions, is the IRAC writing method required for each call of the question? So if there are 5 sub-questions, then you would have 5 IRACs. That one is easy. Let's say it together. Yes. Okay, so you will, and sometimes you'll have more. Sometimes one call of the question actually requires you to analyze 2 or even 3 legal issues. For example, if the question says, does the federal court have jurisdiction over this case, and the case has 2 claims, then you will need to analyze each claim separately. Okay, so and I did an example of that in the greatest hits in civil procedure. I think it was in that one, in one of the office hours in BarMax. And then this is a great question from Boson, and I think, Melissa, since Boson is right, that what is the method adopted to teach you about MPT writing to gather points, since normally people have their own style? So I think we should both answer it. Okay. Go first.
Okay. So we teach you the style to use. Everyone's writing style is going to be slightly different, and that's okay. Everyone's answer should vary. You know, there's, I don't know, however many people take the bar exam every February, every July, everyone's answer is going to vary, but the content is going to be the same. And that's what we're going to teach you, how to gather the content that you need to achieve a passing score.
Yeah, that's terrific in terms of the writing. Like pretty much they're looking for certain things, so we're going to help you get there. But then in how to get there, because the style is, as Melissa said, you know, it's pretty much consistent, like what you're aiming for. But how you get there does vary person to person. Some people read pretty quickly and like to take a lot of notes. Melissa's guilty of that. I am a much more streamlined note taker, and I would say the most extreme on that end would be Whitney. Whitney and Melissa co-taught an MPT webinar that showed 2 completely different methods for approaching the MPT. And in fact, I might have Whitney do hers again as a separate office hour, because a lot of people who don't read quickly and who, if they start taking too many notes, end up wasting too much time, so they don't have enough time to write. A lot of them benefit from Whitney's method, which requires really careful reading because you have to remember more. You're not going to be taking as many notes. So really, what works in terms of a note-taking mechanism and organizing the information varies widely person to person. We do recommend you read the task memo first, and for most people, and even this isn't universal, for most people, it's beneficial to next jump to the library so that you know the law that will apply, because you're not applying the general bar exam law, you're applying whatever they teach you in those cases and statutes and, administrative rulings and whatever that might be attached in your library. Okay, so we recommend you read the task memo, then the library, and then the facts. But how to organize that information, how to annotate, when you really have 45 minutes to organize, annotate, read, and outline, and 45 minutes to write, it will vary person to person. So, and I might be able to come back to your other one, bosun. So this one is a little bit beyond scope. We're really here to help you pass the bar, but really want to ask, does this qualify you to practice at a U.S. law firm? Whether a law firm's going to hire you or not, I don't know. Jobs at law firms are hard to come by. And so, just like any other career that can be tough to break into, there's a lot of hustle involved. There's, your dream job may not have the door open, but will you be qualified for that job in terms of legally licensed? Yes. If your state allows you to take the bar, then when, you have to go through that whole character and fitness, you have to meet whatever other requirements the state has. New York has this other little online exam so that you do know some specific New York law. It's separate. They require that. They all require the MPRE, which is an ethics exam, multiple choice. None of those are as hard as the bar exam itself, right? But when you meet all of those requirements, character and fitness, the whatever little state exam there may or may not be, and the ethics exam, then yes, you've met those requirements and you are qualified to practice law in that state. So I wasn't sure if you were asking, does that mean a law firm is just going to snap me up? Because just like any other job, the answer may be no, or the answer may be yes, because you have a particular set of skills that particular law firms are working for, and you're working your connections well, and whatever else you do to find a great job. But you will be qualified to practice law. You will be qualified to do any legal practice, whether that is contract drafting or litigation or, any kind of representing clients. You will be legally allowed to do in that jurisdiction. So I think that's it, right? For that one?
I think that was good. Yes.
We have, what is the average or mean bar pass fail percentage for 2021? That it varies state to state, and I don't know it nationwide. You have any idea? Some states are
I don't know. Every state is different because every state grades it slightly differently with, like when we looked at the UBE map, every state is a little bit different, whether it's 260, 270, how that works. And it depends on how many people take it. And it also depends on how prepared they are. There was, and I don't remember the year, but I can speak to California, one bar exam, there was like a 21% pass rate. It was very low. And that's when the talk about lowering the passing score began, because if the California bar was wondering, had they made it too hard?
Yeah, so, February of 2020. It was a disaster. Okay. It was a disaster. So 24% of people who took the California bar exam, that administration. February tends to be a smaller group of people, and it does tend to include people who may have failed in July. Mm-hmm. So that's tough, because now you have a group that's already been unsuccessful at the bar, and that comes with its own challenges. We have a lot of videos about that too, just about the mind game. We have tutors who are really helpful with that, because if you didn't have exam anxiety before in your life, you can get it just from that. And so you have an additional hurdle to overcome. So for whatever reason, the pool of people that took that exam in February of 2020 did particularly poorly, or maybe it was 19. Anyway, it was one of the Februarys.
It was. So if you have a question about that, I would go to your state bar and you can look. Although I would say that it really doesn't matter. Like, whatever it has been in the past doesn't really impact you. And so I'm not one to look at statistics that often. I usually shy away from my students looking at them, because to me, it doesn't matter what everyone else has done. It only matters what you do.
That's true. I just want my students to pass. I want to get lots of messages from BarMax students. I want lots of reviews that say I passed. Okay. That's what I look for. I want the students that I have supported through the chat feature, because we have a chat feature, and you can reach technical support that way, but you can also reach an instructor that way. It'll take a few days, but if you're in a pinch and need to reach me or Melissa, then we'll be there. An instructor will be there. It's us for this term, it looks like. So I want those students who I supported to write back and say, I passed. That's what I want. That's who I care about, are my students. Let's see. So we have answered that one. The scoring for UBE. Okay, Melissa, I know that it's half. So let's say you want to get that 266 to pass in New York. Okay. It's 50-50 writing and multiple choice. So if you scored exactly 133 on the multiple choice, which, as I said, would be about 109 questions out of the 175 correct, whatever. If you scored that, you'd have that 133 on the multiple choice, the MBE. And then you'd need another 133 on the writing. Each state does its scaled scores differently. New York grades from 20 to 80. Okay. And so basically a 50 is passing. A lot of states grade from 1 to 6. They give scores 1 through 6, and a 4 is passing. I think Massachusetts is like 1 through 7. So each state will decide what its scoring is, and then it will scale that up so that the 133 for New York would be the exact pass mark. So basically it would be, out of a potential 200, which would be rather extraordinary. So, but do you know the split between those essays and the MPT? I don't remember offhand. I know MPT are weighted more heavily than essays, but I forget.
They are. You know what? I looked at it, and I just, off the top of my head, I don't recall.
Yeah, me neither.
I want
30% and 20%.
There we go.
According to Abba Noob, and he just sounds authoritative about that.
It does sound about right.
Sounds about right. Anyway,
because
MPT is 20%.
There is a little bit more. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Essentially, writing day on its own is 50%. So you think about it that way, and then the MBE is 50%. Which again is also why you don't want to ignore the performance test. I know I've said that I think 5 times, but it is so important, and I help so many students just with performance tests every cycle, because it is the one you can't substantively study for, and so it is a different method of studying.
Okay, so I'm answering one.
Okay.
Here. If you use BarMax Open Book Study Method, how do you split the screen on iPhone or iPad too? Oh gosh, I haven't showed you guys the books. Basically, I don't know. I mean, I don't have iOS except, well, I use my iPad, but can you have 2 things open at once on the iPad? I don't know. I use a split screen method on, I have a laptop and a second monitor, and that's how I do mine. Yeah, so that's how I do it too, is I'll use the split screen method. So what the student is asking is, if I want to look at the outlines and the questions side by side, how can I do that? I don't think you can do it all on the iPad. I'm just not sure. I'm not very iOS literate, even though I use an iPad to teach. It's like I use an Android phone. So in like my regular life, I don't use iOS except for what I do here. So because it's my Test Max iPad. But I have, as Melissa said, I'll open 2 windows on my computer, or you get the book. This is California, but the UBE book, by the way, this is our entire outline, the entire course. All of the subjects are in here. Okay, so our outlines are streamlined to what you need to know to pass the bar. We're not going to send you a big stack of books. We're going to send you this. we're going to send you this so that you can take some practice MBE. These are the practice tests, okay? Because your tests will be given to you on paper. So you want to do some practice on paper. We even put little bubble sheets in here. I bookmarked it so I can show you. So, but what that student is asking is not, oh, it's hard. Yeah, there we go. There's the bubble sheet, and the rest of it is questions. So what that student is asking is if they want to use what we recommend in the video, open book bar exam study, and actually we slip it in, recommend it in a lot of videos. Then how do they do that? You can have the outline open in the book and the question open on your device, or you have to use two devices or a computer where you can have two browser screens open side by side. So I hope that helps. And okay, someone is dealing with exam anxiety, and I am super grateful you mentioned it because it is pervasive. And we have a couple of videos about exam anxiety in particular, and I do want to share my screen and show some of our other videos, but one that it was recent and it's mind-blowingly, like I feel like everybody needs this video, whether it's exam anxiety or some other area of your life. It's called Taming Your Inner Critic. The person who teaches most of those for us is Jennifer, and she has a good deal of background in educational psychology, and she was a law professor doing academic support and eventually a dean of academic support at a California law school. So she has all kinds of good advice. And again, those videos are available. And Jennifer is an available tutor, although she tends to get booked. You know, you can kind of tell why. But yeah, it can be overcome. How do I take the bar in Chicago? You sign up for the Illinois Bar Exam at what? Illinois Bar? I don't know the website. Do you know? I don't know.
If you Google the Illinois Bar Examiners, it'll come up.
Yep. So that's how you do it, and you fill out that process. And remember when I said I had to do that big pain in the neck thing with all my driving records? That was Illinois. Melissa and I both happen to be Illinois lawyers. Fun fact. And we are also both lawyers in 2 other states. So we got 6 states between us, cats. Because before there was the UBE, you had to keep taking the exam in different places. We do not recommend memorizing first. We recommend memorizing last. Our study methods are laid out in lots of videos. The 2022 outlines are not available yet. We are still working from the other outlines because we're making some really great changes for the July 2022 exam, and we want the ones that say 2022 on the cover to encompass those changes. There's so many clarifications to the evidence outline, and we will be also updating 2 of the California topics. So we do not have those yet. We're expecting them by the beginning of May, which is kind of when the calendar begins for the July season. Is it view subject matter outline on one screen? Yeah, okay, we can walk through what it looks like on the screen. Oh, the whole thing. No, you can't like scroll through the whole outline. We don't have that available at this time. You can do it in the book, or you have it segment by segment in the outline. So improving speed with typing is just practice, and you can do some online tutorials for typing. It's definitely worth improving your accuracy a little bit. Your speed doesn't have to be that great, but it does help. It does help to improve it somewhat. So it's just practice. And California has lax requirements. So people are asking about the requirements for foreign attorneys to take the bar. It depends what kind of education you have, because New York allows some people and California allows others. So really read the rules. They are on the website, and it's just, there's a page that sort of summarizes it for New York, but it says you've got to go read rule, you know, da-di-da, point, da-di-da. Read it carefully and figure out if it applies to your education. It comes down to what courses you took and, you know, whether common law or civil law. Obviously in New York, getting people from civil law countries can get a US LLM that might qualify, and then they're good. I've known a foreign student who was taking Oregon. So really, you have to check jurisdiction by jurisdiction. Some people qualify for California, some qualify for New York, some qualify for both. So you have to get that from the jurisdictions. And then once you've read the rules, if you have any questions, and, honestly, just to clarify, then contact the bar examiners, contact them early and contact them often in order to get all of your questions answered. California is surprisingly responsive, and New York will get back to you too. They are there to answer your questions. How do I get the BarMax hard copies? Larry, click the little headset. Click the little headset for support if you purchased BarMax recently and didn't get them. If you have an old BarMax that, like, before we had outlines, you have to go into the product and actually purchase the outlines. They're $100 if you're already a BarMax student. If you're not a BarMax student, you can't have them, because that's like the core of the intellectual property that is BarMax, and we put a lot of work into those. Larry, reach out to customer support. How many hours a day should we be doing? This varies so much that I need to recommend yet another video called Scheduling Your Bar Exam Study, and I'll show you the videos in a minute. So I answered that one live, I answered. And where do I go to see Taming Your Inner Critic? Okay, I'm gonna show videos, and then Melissa and I are gonna come back and talk about Florida, Michigan, Georgia, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Nevada, and I am leaving somebody out. Anyway, we're going to come back and talk about those states after I show some of these recommended resources. Sound good? We are already over an hour. So if you've already gotten what you need, you can log out, but I want to show you guys these resources. So maybe you'll look at that and then log out if you are UBE. So I'm going to share my screen again, but this time I'm sharing my Chrome. And hey, where did I get that beautiful map anyway? You think I made it? No, I did not make it. Here it is on the NCBE website, ncbex.org. Okay, ncbex.org is going to be a very useful website for you. You can click any state. Here's Kansas. Why not? It's kind of in the middle. And it tells you the UBE score required to pass. And it gives you a link, usually, no, to the jurisdiction. Maybe not. You'd have to go one further click to these charts. Anyway, it gives you information about each state, which is great. There is a page for MEE, a page for MBE, a page for MPT. See up here, there's just all kinds of really useful information on this site. So we're going to give you what you need to pass the bar, but your jurisdiction is the best source for whether you qualify to take the bar, what the application process is, anything about that. But for general information about the bar exam, NCBE is very good. This is that video page I told you about, okay, with the 24 videos. I'm going to show you all of the videos. Now, I'm logged in right now. This is BarMax, and I'll go to the homepage. I'm logged into the UBE program. I could change my state and log into California, and you'd see some of the same videos, but then also some California-specific videos. But if you look here, we have some content related videos. Now, these you don't need. Everything you need is in the lectures and outlines. But if you want more information on the kinds of questions you're going to see tested and how to approach them, then those are here in the BarMax office hours. I clicked this little tab. So all of the webinars, these free national webinars like today, and the office hours are all on this page. And Taming Your Inner Critic. Just so fantastic. It's streamed on January 2nd or January 10th, 2022. January 10th, 2022. That's Jennifer. Yeah, so that one is great, but it is a paid BarMax thing. I will show you what is available of Jennifer in the free stuff. This is my open book bar exam study. Oh yeah, I mean, we have a lot of really good stuff in here. We have 4 sessions on just California roadmaps. Anyway, what is available for free on the BarMax playlist? This is the BarMax webinars playlist on the YouTube page for TestMax Inc. Okay, and you'll see that the open book bar study one is here. Studying for the exam. 7 ways to train your brain for the bar exam. Jennifer, she starts talking about that mental game stuff. Okay, that's the one that's available for free. She's done a lot more. Gosh, we even had a mindfulness thing with like meditation, you know, so you can learn about that from BarMax because it's going to be helpful to some of you. So we're providing content that, you know, not all of these videos are for everybody. Maybe you're great on the MPT. We have all these performance test videos you might not need, but you'll need something else. How to schedule your bar exam study time. If you are working or taking a longer time, so let's say you're starting now in March to prepare for July because you have family obligations or work or both. Watch this, please, and it will show you, you know, kind of how to schedule blocks of study time in your schedule and then what to fill them with. We provide a calendar, but you take that calendar, spread it out over the time you have. And I talk about making the most effective use of your study time, which is active study. I talk about that a lot, active study. So let's see what else is really helpful in here. If you're retaking the bar exam, we have this, and we have MEE Basics. We're actually going to be doing another one upcoming. If you are a BarMax student and you have office hours you'd like to see this term, I'm still making the schedule, so shoot me those suggestions. So while we're over here in BarMax, I want to point out that here in the lower left corner, there's that little headset. And that headset is where you can send a question to support. You have any technical support type questions, you know, really anything with your BarMax access, customer service, they will respond. But if it's a content question, if it's like BarMax content, it will come to the instruction team, which is us. Yeah, so that's good. And these other videos are here. So let me see if I've hit most of the Q&A. So Taming Your Inner Critic is one of these here, Gloria, that's within the office hours page. Any material for law students? Oh my goodness, yes. First of all, we have, you know, you can purchase BarMax tutoring. It's available for law students as well as bar people. But we have a program called 1L, okay? And it's not this one. You actually, I would have to log out of BarMax and log into 1L, testmaxprep.com, 1L. So go to the App Store, either Android or App Store, Apple, and download 1L. And by the way, if you don't have the free version of BarMax, get it because it has some stuff in it, right? And you know, when you buy, as long as you're buying with the same email address, then you know, it'll open up access to everything. But 1L, you can look at the kind of material that's there as well. It includes a lot of case briefs, and it includes the components of BarMax that are generally taught the 1L year. So yes, and we're going to have some more videos coming up, so keep an eye on your email. We're going to do some 1L geared videos upcoming. Oh, we have another video for foreign lawyers, I forgot to mention it earlier. That one will be our very next webinar like this will be March 30th, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. It will be specifically about the U.S. legal system. Hey, if you're a pre-law student and you want to know about the U.S. legal system, come to that. But definitely, if you are a foreign lawyer and want to know the differences between our legal system and, some others, come to that. It's just a basic overview of the U.S. legal system. Should be super helpful. I'm co-teaching that with Jennifer on the 30th of March. So, Melissa, I think we're ready to get into state by state stuff. I'll look at the rest of this Q&A while you're doing Michigan, and then I'll come back and hit up the other states just quickly.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks.
Okay. Celeste, can you start unsharing your screen for me real quick? Thank you. All right, I'm going to share my screen one more time, and I am going to talk to you quickly about Michigan. I am a Michigan lawyer. That was the very first bar exam I took back a long time ago. It is still the Michigan bar exam for July 2022. Starting February 2023, Michigan will begin administering the UBE, which is why it was shaded on the map that you saw earlier with Celeste. But for the July 2022 exam, it's still going to be testing on writing day, the day one, Michigan law. So what does that look like? It looks like 15 essays that are 20 minutes each. You get 9 essays in the morning for 3 hours, and you get 6 in the afternoon, 2 hours. 20 minutes per essay. It's a lot different than a lot of the strategies we talked about for both the MEE and California. It's very fast, it's very specific, and you can't write a lot in 20 minutes. But practice, just like everything else, you still use IRAC, and it's based on Michigan law. Day 2 is the MBE. Again, those 200 multiple choice questions. So what is covered? Federal civil practice and procedure, contracts, including Article 2 of the UCC, constitutional law, criminal law and procedure, evidence, equity, which is another name for remedy, but in Michigan we call it equity, torts, which includes no fault for the essay portion, no fault auto insurance, and real and personal property. So most of those probably sound similar. Again, those are the big 7 that are tested on the MBE. No fault is an essay-only topic, and personal property is also an essay-only topic. If we move to the right-hand side, corporations, partnership, and agency, again, it's business entities. That's going to be Michigan law. Wills and trusts, domestic relations. So family law, we call it domestic relations in Michigan. Conflicts of law. Articles 3 and 9 of the UCC. What is that? So that's something different that we haven't covered yet. Creditors' rights, which include mortgages, garnishments, and attachments. And then the Michigan practice and procedure, Michigan rules of professional conduct, and workers' compensation. And that's workers' compensation Michigan law. So a lot of Michigan law goes into these essays. Now, let me find, I have one more essay, one more slide here. How does it scored? It's scored, each essay is 10 points. So you have 150 points possible on the essays, and the MBE is 200 points. So how Michigan calculates the score, they actually use a very simple formula. They have your scaled essay score plus your MBE score, and they divide by 2. Your passing scaled score has to be 135 or more to pass. And that's it. So Celeste, I don't have anything else in regards to Michigan.
Okay. I have the other states, and I got a great Q&A privately that says, for new participants using BarMax, how do you determine what one needs most, or what areas of material or subject matter one needs to work on most to pass the exam? I felt like it's a great question. I want to tackle it next.
It is.
You want to hit that?
Sure. So I think partly the first review of all the material, you have to go through everything because everything is fair game. So I think the first time you go through the material, which we have on our calendar, if you begin in this part, May, or if you're starting now, it's a great time to kind of really slowly go through the material the first time, all the subjects, what UBE, California, Michigan, or another state, and really understand concepts, big ideas. Start there because that's going to lay the foundation for learning and remembering all your rules and your nuances. If you don't understand the concepts and how they fit together, you're not going to understand how they interplay to answer the question. So the first review, well, you have to look at everything. And then upon your subsequent reviews, that's where you target study. That's what I call it, where you review the things that you still can't remember, you don't understand, you're getting wrong in your application. MBE questions, you missed it in an essay. Those type of ideas, if you're missing it, there's a disconnect, and that's what you want to work on. So that, and using our analytic, when you answer multiple choice questions through the app or the iPad, through the course, you can see what you did, what you got right, broken down in subtopics for multiple choice, the big 7. And then you can see you got 10 out of 12 negligence questions right. Well, that's great. But maybe you got 3 out of 15 hearsay questions wrong, right, in evidence. Well, then you're going to say, gee, maybe I need to review that section again. There's something disconnect that I need to fix.
Yeah. And what's important about that is that as you do those analytics, so we really recommend that analytics after that first practice test is so important. In fact, I recommend my students clear all their past answer choices and then take that first practice test so they can see where they're at. And as Melissa was saying, like there might have been a lot of hearsay questions and a lot of negligence questions that you missed. Why? Because those are heavily tested areas. So when you see a lot of questions in one area, you know you need to focus on it because it's an easy place to rake in points. Learn negligence inside out, know the different standards of care, know the different defenses to the different torts, the different defenses that might be available, and the other aspects of negligence, know about causation, and bam, you are going to have a lot of points in your bank. So yes, use that to notice, first of all, what's most heavily tested and where you're missing the greatest number of questions, not necessarily the greatest percentage of questions. If you miss, 50% of questions in an area where there's only 2, it's less important than if you are missing a lot of questions in search and seizure, another heavily tested area. Okay, you want to see where you can go and rake in a lot of points. So great advice, Melissa. Thank you. So that's for the MBE, and then know all of the MEE topics. Here's why. You don't know which one's going to be on your exam. I don't like predictions because, you want to be there the day that your prediction is wrong, and you decided not to study trust because somebody who thinks they're smart told you it wouldn't be on your exam. I wouldn't go for that. So know them all. The other reason to learn them all and not be intimidated by them, first of all, we have great office hour videos. Second, we have all of the past essays, so you can just learn from them. You can use those essays to learn the law. Using past essay questions to learn the law is another video. We've made a lot of good content by now. And third, most importantly, there aren't that many topics tested in each of those subjects. if you look at the length of the lectures and the length of the outlines, but especially the lectures, they're super short compared to, you know, what you need to know for criminal law and criminal procedure. That's a lot of stuff. You know, honestly, the search and seizure lecture alone is what, 2 hours? I think it's the longest lecture in our program. You know, just search and seizure. But then we have some lectures that are 10 minutes, 7 minutes, you know, some segments of these other courses that really there's not a whole lot you need to know. So we just touch it, tell you what it is you need to know, and move on. So because those are easier to master and you don't know which one you're going to get, make sure you learn them all. Yeah. Okay. So I'll share my screen again and start talking about other states since I kept promising that. So let's go back here. First of all, you can see Pennsylvania. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. Can you see Pennsylvania?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Thanks. Great. Because yeah, chat is, woo. Katie's in there in chat. I took a few. So what you'll notice about Pennsylvania is that it is red now. It is, UBE as of July 2022. So if you are in Pennsylvania, welcome aboard the UBE family. The rest of this presentation is not about you because you're UBE. If you are in Florida, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be that sympathetic, but it's a funky exam. Part A of the Florida exam is Florida specific. You get 3 essays in the morning and 100 Florida multiple choice in the afternoon. It can cover, and then of course, day 2, just like all over the country, the multiple choice MBE. The Florida exam subjects can include all of these. The ones that are bolded are either unique to Florida, like knowing the Florida Constitution, Florida Rules of Procedure, Florida Professionalism, or they're just not tested on the UBE anymore. Article 3 negotiable instruments, sometimes called commercial paper, sometimes called my least favorite bar topic when I took the bar. I don't know why. I love Article 9 and I hate Article 3. I don't know why. It's just not intuitive to me, but you'll need to learn it if you're in Florida because these subjects are all fair game for your exam. The good news is that those 100 Florida questions are super straightforward. They're much easier than MBE questions. You just need to know the law. You don't have to master the trickery of how the questions are posed and tested in the same way that you do for the MBE. They are just more straightforward. And samples are available on the Florida website. So are past essay questions. So what is the winning approach to Florida? Use BarMax MBE or consider BarMax UBE. Okay, the reason you would consider BarMax UBE is because all of the highlighted areas here overlap with the UBE. But if you don't use BarMax UBE, then at least use BarMax MBE, and we will help you prepare for the Florida part of the exam. Practice, for the MBE part of the exam. For the Florida part, practice with real exam questions. That's what we tell our people to do for the UBE. That's what I'm going to tell you to do for Florida. Practice with real exam questions. They are available on the Florida Bar website. You might even, if you're like pretty independent self-starter kind of person and you need to pass Florida, I've known people who are successful just, buying used bar prep materials from other companies that have lengthy Florida outlines, using those for reference and studying the Florida multiple choice and Florida essays from those used outlines, but then using BarMax with all of our resources for the MBE. The 3 UBE plus states that I mentioned, Hawaii, if you look, it looks exactly like the UBE, except you have these, oh no, that's not what I was trying to highlight. I was trying to say this. These 15 multiple choice questions on Hawaii professional responsibility first. before you hit up those essays. So it's easy, but they do add it to the exam and they don't have the same reciprocity as other UBE states. South Dakota, same thing. When they test the law, distinctions do not matter. The UBE will be the exact same generally applicable principles of law as in UBE states. The only difference is the federal Indian law. So you want to get your hands on some federal Indian law materials. It's Indian Child Welfare Act and that sort of thing. And practice that plus BarMax UBE and you are good to go. Wisconsin offers the past Wisconsin essays. Now they will use MEE essays, MPT, performance tests, and Wisconsin essays all mixed together. That's Tuesday. Okay. They might use all essays or they might use a bunch of essays and an MPT. You just have to walk in and take what they give you. But they will send you samples, 10 essays plus analysis for $25. Definitely worth getting if you are studying for the Wisconsin bar exam using BarMax UBE. For everyone else, I said this for Florida already, but for Georgia, Nevada, wherever you are, practice with real past essay questions that are available on your state's bar exam website. You can just go and download a bunch. They publish them and use, I didn't finish this. BarMax MBE. That's what I was going to put here. BarMax MBE. Yeah. Woo, there we go. That's, being strategic about using other states' resources. Delaware is a very odd state. If you probably know this, if you're trying to become a lawyer in Delaware, there's this clerkship requirement. You kind of need to, be paired with an existing Delaware lawyer, and they only offer the exam in July. But the test itself is a 3-day exam with Delaware essays, performance tests, either the MPT or Delaware performance test, just like Melissa discussed, and the MBE. You need to know Delaware procedure, all courts, and the court of Chancery in Delaware. The one that handles most U.S. corporate law is, that's something you need to know. The procedure and the law applicable there, and the past bar exam questions are all available. This is Delaware, but every website has, or every state that is not UBE has something like this where you can find some past essays. Except Wisconsin, you have to send them $25 and they'll mail them to you like it's $19.99. Georgia essays are 45 minutes each. They do not look like MEE essays. They are lengthy, and I actually, oh gosh, where did I show one? I showed one in one of my other office hours. They require you to know Georgia law. They really want you to know Georgia law. So the distinctions do matter. So you will want to study from some Georgia bar exam materials, which sadly we do not have. We do have one grader who is a Georgia lawyer and can grade Georgia essays for you. So if you want to submit essays to BarMax, you might be a BarMax MBE student or even a BarMax UBE student learning some of that extra law from us. You still need to know Florida distinctions. Or even if you're not a BarMax student at all and you just want to purchase essay gradings, you can do that. We have a grader who can handle those. Mississippi, same thing, distinctions matter. Okay. 6 MEE essays plus 2 Mississippi essays. This is brutal. Writing for 6 hours is hard enough, but Mississippi makes you write for 7.5. So y'all, I'm sorry. That's what you get. It's not great. We have a tutor, Jennifer, who I referenced earlier, who can teach Nevada in addition to California and UBE. She is pretty multi-talented, and she can help you with the Nevada exam. We do recommend that you purchase our California course because the community property aspect of it will be the most like California, and she can help you with those distinctions if you want to work with Jennifer as your tutor. That's what I would recommend if you're taking Nevada. For Virginia students, there are these state subjects. Again, UCC Article 3, that's that negotiable instruments, commercial paper. You need to know that one for Virginia. And the Virginia essay exam is a little weird. There's longer essays and then a bunch of short answer questions. Definitely look at the website to get familiar with what's on the Virginia bar if you decide to go that route. Or you can just be a DC lawyer or a North Carolina lawyer by taking the UBE. But you may live in Virginia and want to practice in Virginia, in which case, please look at the Virginia Bar website and learn. They have lots of years of essay questions, and you can learn from those. And then finally, Michigan will administer the UBE starting in February 2023, and Melissa told you what to do between now and then. I see I still have some people here, so I'm going to check Q&A one more time. Oh, Melissa, can you jump back in here? This was a good one. I didn't know if we had time for it. How do you determine what is required in your answers in an essay question so you do not go on a tangent? And I think this is particularly with MEE where, you know, they've only got 30 minutes, but maybe California too. What would you say?
I would say practice is one of, because sometimes, and focus in on exactly the question that they're asking, especially on the MEE. And you saw it a little bit in that torts question that Celeste showed. It's a very specific question. You want to make sure you're answering that specific question. You're not looking at other things. There may be other things that you see because you can't help it, because you're trained to analyze a complete situation. That's not what you want to do here. You need to exactly answer the question. So, for example, I got to move my, under the applicable standard of care, are the facts sufficient for a jury to find that the son acted negligently? Well, what are they really asking? They're asking, could the jury find the son was negligent?
Did we hit the elements? This is just elements, no defenses. This one's just elements, yeah.
And so that's what you focus on. It doesn't, anything else that you may see or your mind may go to, it just doesn't matter. You will also find that on MBE questions, and I know it's a little off the question, but you'll be like, you'll say, well, but why can't they I want this person to recover. They'll play on your emotion. It sounds funny, but it's true. And you say, but you have to focus on the party who is suing whom, and is it apply the elements mechanically. It's really very mechanical, and as you get into the material and you practice, you find what going on a tangent is really you trying to put your emotions and what you think should happen in the question. And that's, you have to be that reasonable person, for lack of that objective reasonable person, and not worry about what would happen in real life. It doesn't matter. It's what happens on the piece of paper and in the bar exam. So that's part of it, is just focusing in. For California, it's slightly different because you do have to have identify the issues from the fact pattern more, but you have to take only what's on the piece of paper. Nothing else comes in like real world. Well, I think this would, no, that's not, you don't want to think about what you think would happen. What facts do they tell you? They give you enough to answer the question in an hour. If you're struggling, with finding issues, that's something we can help you with. If you're finding more issues and it's taking you 2.5 hours to write an hour essay, that's where we would talk about, at least in tutoring. Well, are you inferring other facts? Are you putting your own ideas into the fact pattern? and really living in the world of your facts only. That's it's going to help you stay on task and focus.
Thank you, Melissa. That's great. Great. So I want to answer a couple more questions. One is about BarMax, and I did not make this clear earlier because people are like, oh, you know, when can I start studying? When you purchase BarMax, your access is unlocked right away. This is unlike some of our competitors who have a window of time in which they think it's appropriate for you to study for the bar. We have students who study for a long time before their first bar exam, either because they're foreign lawyers and they're learning a lot of law for the first time, or because they're, you know, as I said, work or family obligations make it so that they need to spread it out over more time. For whatever reason, we allow our students to do that. The prices I'm showing are unlimited access. So theoretically, you could buy today and take the bar in 2 years. And it would open for you right away. So you can begin studying the day you purchase. You don't have to wait until, you know, books arrive in the mail or whatever. And so if you want to purchase tutoring, Katie, give Bernice a little help with that, because tutoring is definitely available for purchase in one of, if you don't need this bundle, you want to take advantage of these discounts here and get the one of the bar exam tutoring packages that will be available. So I also saw that someone named Chris had raised your hand. Chris, you might be having trouble with the chat feature. If your question hasn't been answered, do you want to go ahead and turn off your mic and let me know what your question, turn on your mic, let me know what your question is? I think it was Chris Gilmore, maybe? I noticed a hand. All right. I'm thinking maybe the question was answered. And then Albert, so either Christopher Gilmore or Albert Thomas, do you want to, Albert, you want to turn on your mic and ask your question?
Hello, do you hear me?
Oh, Christopher, hello.
Yes, I'm sorry. I apologize. I had a problem with using my iPhone, I guess.
No problem. So what's the question?
So, okay, my question is, I'm a pro se litigant already. I have like 2 wins under my belt pro se. But what I'm saying is, I'm a civil litigant, and I kind of submitted my summary judgment too early. I submitted my summary judgment because when they first initially answer your court proceedings, they either answer or they don't answer. So I filed a default judgment, but then they answered, and the judge allowed them to continue. But then I filed a summary judgment, and then the next proceeding, the judge said I had a potential good case, and he said I could amend it. He's allowing me to be able to amend it. And he's telling me like I can file my summary judgment again. So do I just file my summary judgment now?
We can't give you legal advice. This can get us in trouble ethically, as the people here who've studied for that MPRE could tell you. That can get us in trouble ethically. We can't give you legal advice. But you know, because we're not your lawyer. But it sounds like that judge, I will say as a general matter, it sounds like that judge is working with you and giving you some good cues, okay? And I was a clerk at a federal court for a while with a magistrate judge. And I found that we really did what we could to help those pro se litigants. So, you know, you work with that judge and the judge's clerk, and they will help guide you through that process. And good luck. Good luck with your case.
Okay. He denied my, hello? Okay.
Okay, that's it for, yeah. Okay, thanks. And then I wanted to see the other person who had a question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Albert.
Hey, thank you for taking my question. I purchased the California Baby Bar Pro Mastery because that's what I'm looking to take, the Baby Bar.
Mm-hmm.
And is that all there is? I know there's videos and stuff, but first of all, so that all that access is going to be good forever, right? I don't have to worry about it not being available after my June test. It'll be available for October test too, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. Now, I know some of our programs are access for 2 exams, but I think Baby Bar is unlimited. I'm sorry, you might Katie, if you know, jump into chat, but if not, maybe somebody can,
No big deal. So my real
Yeah.
question was, so is that all there was to the baby bar preps that you guys offer, the Pro Mastery, which is, I don't know, I got it through a discount code from my school, and then I upgraded for like $97 for the Pro Mastery. Is that
So
all there is to it?
we
Nothing
have,
more?
what we have are the lectures. I can actually log in and show the baby part program. We don't have too many people here now. We have the lectures, you know, that on torts, criminal law, and contracts, right? And we have all the multiple choice questions, and we do have sample baby bar essay questions, and it comes with gradings. So we have a grader who really he will grade those baby bar essay questions and give you lots and lots of feedback right away. So start submitting those essay questions or those essay answers and get that feedback. Of course, that applies for bar students too, but with you taking the baby bar in June, so that's what you should see. You should see multiple choice questions, essays. You should be able to download the welcome packet with essay questions and sample responses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's what you should get. And you need to know those 3 subjects really well. You need to be able to answer those multiple choice questions and write a good essay. And I wish you all the best on that, Albert.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You bet. You bet.
Appreciate
Okay. Yeah, I'm still in my presentation, so I'm not going to show baby bar now, but there we go. All right. So I think we have answered all of our, oh, there's baby bar info from Katie. Woohoo! That's our first year law students program. So I think we have answered our questions. Fritz, please use the current BarMax materials. They are all good. They're just updates, clarifications. We're constantly working to make BarMax better, right? And because we don't cut off access in between seasons, for those of you who are studying between seasons, you will see the changes as they happen instead of like, oh, here's the brand new program that I haven't had access to while I've needed it the last 2 months. No, you have access now. The materials you have now are good, and we want you to study from those. Keep submitting those essays. I know I've seen your name in essays, and succeed on your bar exam. Yeah, I do want to tell you that if you are a BarMax student, we are here for you. We want to help you pass the bar. That's what we're here to do. That's all we do. And we wish you all the best in your journey toward becoming lawyers. And thank you so much for participating and being with us today.